You're making one right decision today. You're listening to Handcuffs and Sage.
Three badass moms bringing you all the true crime and paranormal your heart desires.
I'm Red.
I'm Timo.
I'm Dre. And don't let your kids listen. Seriously, just don't.
Hey, it's Handcuffs and Sage. Woo! This is Red.
Hey, this is Timo.
Hey, this is Dre. What's up?
Oh my
What
goodness.
is up?
It's election night, y'all. Ooh.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's been
God.
a very crazy day. Oh, I'm wearing my pearls. I'm wearing
Yes,
my
you
pearls
are.
for RBG. Dre was sporting her pearls earlier for RBG.
Mhm.
I feel fancy. Do I look fancy?
I
do.
felt fancy at work today. I was wearing like a top that didn't have real pearls, but it looked like real blingy, like it was pearls.
Uh-huh.
And then I was wearing all black. And then you look down and I was wearing my Nike. my Nike.
Aw, that's
what a
cool.
beautiful
That was so funny.
outfit.
It
Oh,
was
I love
wonderful.
that. I think I'm going to wear pearls just a lot now because
Yeah.
I feel classy. It's a
Yeah.
lie, but I feel classy. You know what I mean?
I
guys
did not
vote?
wear pearls. Oh, I did. I voted, but I did not wear pearls today just because I'm in my tank and my shorts and just working. And
You're
just-
wearing the absolute like national outfit for 2020. Like everyone's wearing
Right?
a tank top and pajama bottoms. Okay.
I know, right?
I'm wearing a
what
tank
I
top
would-
and pajama bottoms right
Yeah.
now.
I don't even think I
Mhm.
own pearls. So, yeah. Mm.
These are fake. This is like costume jewelry.
Yeah, I don't even have
So-
that. So,
Okay, I'll let you borrow them sometimes
Okay.
so you can feel classy.
okay. All right.
Oh, so this has been a interesting day. So we don't know exactly who has won yet, right?
Okay.
So that's been going
Right.
on today. And then also this week, which is kind of fun and crazy. I don't know what we were thinking, but our team, our like little fitness health team decided to do sober November, which is great, but it's during an election year, so stupid also
I
at
know,
the same
I know.
time.
Right.
Well, it's
Not just during an election year, but try during a pandemic.
a pandemic. Yeah. And then we all have a little bit of like
Yeah.
drama going on in our lives too. This episode's releasing a day late.
Mhm.
Sorry, y'all. We just had to deal with some personal shit. We just had to, take a day off and do what we needed to do. But if I
Mhm.
needed a drink of all days, it would be tonight. Luckily, I dumped all my booze at the beginning of sober November, so I have nothing to drink, and my lazy ass doesn't want to like get in the car or
Right.
walk over to the liquor store. So I'm not drinking. I have my
Well,
hot
you
tea.
better not.
Yeah.
It's sober November.
You're
I,
so
every time,
close to.
yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just drinking a ton of water, so I'm really hoping this is a good week for weight loss for all of us. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because we all want to be sexy by Christmas,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
So, in light of it being November, I was looking at some true crime stories, see what I want to talk about for the month. And of course, Thanksgiving massacres are just so fun.
Oh
Aren't
my
they?
gosh. Okay.
Oh my gosh. So, I have a bunch that I'm going to do for the month, and
Yay.
they are actually stories I haven't heard. So I got to do some
Ooh.
deep dives, which is always a good time. So the one I'm doing tonight is one I had never heard of before, but I think everyone will find it interesting, intriguing. So this is a November Thanksgiving special, if you will. Yes,
Mm.
yes.
Mhm.
So in 1789, President George Washington declared November 26th to be officially recognized as a day of public thanksgiving and prayer to be observed by acknowledging with grateful hearts the many and signal favors of Almighty God. Americans have been celebrating Thanksgiving since then, coming together with friends and family, enjoying a feast, giving thanks. And then there's this dickhead that we're going to talk about tonight. So my story is about Paul Michael Merhige. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but let's pretend I am. Okay. So he is called the Thanksgiving Day Killer. Crazy.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't believe I never heard about this, but here we go. Here we go. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go. In Paul's yearbook of his senior year, he dedicated his whole page to all 32 members of his family. I love you now and will forever. So that's crazy because of what he ends up doing. Just keep that in mind. You know how everyone gets their senior page and, you know, you usually go like, I love my boyfriend. We're going to be together forever, you know, serious stuff. He dedicated to his family, which is just insane. 17 years later, Paul would kill 4 of those family members over Thanksgiving dinner.
Wow, wow, wow.
Paul was actually a very promising student with a really bright future early on, and people really did like him. He graduated 3rd in his class from Gulliver Prep, which is a very nice school. He played sports. He played football, baseball, and soccer. He led the French Honor Society. He was really well liked. He was healthy. He was fit. He was on track, man, right? Like if he was your son, you'd be like, he's got it made. He's doing it, right? His plan was to go to the University of Miami and to become a doctor, okay? So Paul actually did end up going to UM, and he was an honor student, but at 19 years old, he had a nervous breakdown. And let me just stop this here because, you know, doing this story and looking into it with my own things going on, it was really hard, right? It was really hard. My daughter's in college, so this is really hitting home for me. So when he was 19, he ends up having this nervous breakdown, which is so sad. And he was battling severe depression and obsessive compulsive disorder. Mental illness often comes out in college. You know, you have a pre-existing condition and it's triggered by stress or drastic life changes. So, you know, we do hear this a lot, you know, in this age group, going off being on their own, the stress of college can really be hard on kids. It really can be. And so this is what happened to Paul. His nervous breakdown didn't end. So he was not able to really pull himself out of it. He really became a troubled person. He suffered from insomnia, obesity. He had like a receding hairline at a really young age, and you know, the obsessive compulsive disorder, which can really just take over you. He repeatedly bathed and shaved, like just over and over and over again. He struggled to make decisions. He was unable to hold a job. And on top of that, he stopped taking his medicine, and you can't do that, right? So it's just bad upon bad happening now, which is really sad because he was like this really bright kid with a bright future. Paul and his siblings did have a troubled history. A decade before the incident happened, Paul sought protection from law enforcement. I guess he had accused one of his sisters of trying to kill him. According to records obtained by the Miami Herald, he dropped that request a few weeks later, but I think he's like in this spiral state. Okay, it's just a mess for him. And then in 2006, his sister Carla requested a restraining order against him, saying he had threatened to kill her and himself. But then she withdrew that request a few weeks later. So you can see that there's stuff going on with the family, which is really sad. Really, it is.
Yeah.
I guess he at one point shot himself in an attempted suicide, but
Oh no.
yeah, was not successful in that.
Oh,
Yeah, he was never able to hold a job and was completely supported by his parents.
wow.
Yeah, and this incident happened when he was 35 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Do you ever watch Dr. Phil and the episodes like where the person's like 40 and they're still living with their parents? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I kind of think about that, but I mean, he was really battling it out. So people were saying that he might have been really jealous of his twin sisters. I guess they were very successful and happy, right, in their lives. And obviously he wasn't. He wasn't working. He was living with his parents, right? He really stalled out. And he had two twin sisters, Lisa Knight and Carla Merhige. Whatever. I apologize. I do not know how to say his last name. So now we're at November 26, 2009. It's Thanksgiving. And Paul had planned for this day. He bought four guns. He packed up his clothes and he withdrew $12,000 in cash from his account. And my first thought is, how does he have $12,000
Right.
in cash if he doesn't work? I don't know. I just thought about that. It just really bothered me. I don't know how he has this money. Anyway, so he withdraws this money. So 16 of his family members came together for Thanksgiving dinner, and Paul sat silently for 3 hours. Didn't say a word. He did not eat a thing. That would be hard for anyone because it's Thanksgiving dinner and it's legit the best, right? So he sits there, doesn't say anything like a creeper, doesn't eat like a weirdo. And then he stands up and he goes outside to his car. And then he comes back inside the house. And without a single word, he starts firing a gun.
Oh my God.
So then Jim Sitton, this is Paul's cousin-in-law, he's like later talking about what happened inside, right? And Jim said that the holiday had been a really happy one. Like this had been a really happy day for the family. His daughter Michaela wrote on like little cards how thankful she was for her family. She was just like this little girl. And after the dinner, she was like singing songs for the family as part of a impromptu dress rehearsal for this performance of the Nutcracker that she had the next day coming up, which is so sad. So it was like this really happy time. And Paul is off in Paul world doing whatever. And then he comes in and starts shooting at this family. It's awful. There were no arguments, right? A lot of people fight, families fight at Thanksgiving. And Jim is saying there were no arguments, there were no warnings, there were no red flags, right? Before this all happened. He just got up, left, came back and started shooting. Okay. So Paul shoots his twin sisters, Lisa and Carla, and he kills them both. And Lisa was pregnant.
Oh no.
Yes. Piece of shit, dude. He shot and killed his aunt Raymonde Joseph. This is crazy. So he tries to kill his uncle, Antone, except that the fatal shot he shot at his aunt, he had shot it into like her sternum and it jammed his gun. And so then when he turned to shoot his uncle, it wouldn't go. And he like pointed it at his head and everything. So it's real, awful. And then he shot and killed Jim's daughter, Michaela. So Lisa's husband was there. Patrick was shot in the stomach and he spent 3 months in a medically induced coma. And then he also shot Clifford Cabrera, but he was just like grazed by a bullet. So he's okay. Jim said he actually doesn't think Paul planned to kill Michaela, but he thinks that he was like jealous of her when he saw like her happiness and delight and singing to the family, that it bothered Paul. He later said he tried to snuff out the light. He came into my baby's room. He saw her innocence. He walked in and purposely killed her. So she wasn't even in the room anymore. She was asleep.
Oh, no.
Sitton said he dreaded returning to his home, but was comforted when he walked into his daughter's room Sunday. This is from a news article. Beside her bed, he wept when he read for the first time a novel she had been writing about a squirrel. Michaela had been a voracious reader who loved to sing, dance, and tell stories. She would have turned 7 in just a few days. Awful, awful. After Paul shot and killed members of his family, he said, just out loud, I waited 20 years to kill them.
Wow.
So he had been planning and stewing on this. Paul was sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences because of a plea agreement he had made to avoid the death penalty. So he made a deal, right? So they didn't have to go through the whole court process. Paul's parents, Carol and Michael, stumbled through reading their letter to the judge. So, you know, like when you're in a situation like this, you have a victim impact statement, right? So Carol and Michael are his parents, but remember, he shot and killed their daughters, their twin daughters, right? So they're trying to read this letter to the judge, and they're trying to, you know, reconcile the loss of their twin daughters, Lisa and Carla, but also they're asking mercy for Paul, right? It's just really sad. And Patrick, Lisa's husband, spoke about the loss of Lisa and their first baby. Patrick said that Paul was nothing more than a fat, lazy failure, and at 35 had never had a job or a girlfriend, and that he just stayed home all day on the computer. This defendant stole the lives of the 4 most beautiful people because he was jealous, because he was angry, because he didn't want to see anyone do better than him. The judge on this case knew, you know, where Patrick was coming from in his loss, because the judge himself had become a widower when his pregnant wife had been shot and killed in 1994.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh.
So so the judge really talked to the family in this proceeding. He offered the family his own strategy for getting through the day under the weight of tremendous loss. So he talked to them about how to like work yourself through this terrible thing. And he knew from his experience, which I think is amazing for the judge to take time and do all that with the family. But this is the Thanksgiving Day killer. And what really bothers me is, you know, why? I don't understand why. Like, I know he stopped taking his medication. Was he not seeing a doctor? Like, were his parents not having him like do those things like consistently, right? Like, what made him so angry towards his family, right? It's so sad. It's a terrible story. They sounded like an amazing family, like really close and everything. And for him to do this is just really awful. But this is the Thanksgiving Day killer. I think my other stories hopefully aren't as sad and awful as this
All
one.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That was heavy.
Yeah, it was real heavy.
It's heavy and it's hard to talk about. It's really sad.
Yeah,
Awful.
I had never heard that story either. So
No.
yeah.
And when did it happen?
This was back in 2009.
Oh, so he's still alive in prison somewhere.
Yeah, he's somewhere. I mean, I could write him a letter, I guess.
Oh, geez.
He opens it up. I'm like, you're a McFuckface
You're a McFuckface.
from Red. He's like, who the hell is Red? I just don't understand. Like, I know that people struggle with mental illness, of course, but it seems like in this situation, it was so unchecked for so long, and all these people died. It's so sad to me. It really
Yeah.
is.
And that's the thing too, you might never ever know why. You know, that's like the $1 million question, even when someone kills themselves too. And if they don't even know, you know, that's, you're constantly wondering why. I mean,
why?
Yeah.
What torture?
Yeah.
Honestly, awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't know his like his diagnosis or anything, right? Like it didn't mention what he was suffering
Depression
from.
And obsessive compulsive disorder.
Mm.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
That's strange though, that then led to like murderous behavior. So there must have been something else going on there.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody knew about.
So sad. It really is so sad.
I'm hoping that I'll cheer you guys up with my story, because I'm going to continue on with Skinwalker Ranch and all the drama with these guys over there. And it's getting exciting, you guys. I watched 3 episodes in a row, just to kind of like, because I'm watching it as I'm telling it. I have not seen the episodes on ahead. So I'm going to continue with, let's see, this is episode 3. So I'm going to get into 3 and a little bit into 4. So where we left off, Eric and Dragon were calling Brandon to let him know about what happened to Tom. You know, they were out there at the mesa, they were doing their little camping thing, and then they were seeing lights and all this crazy stuff, and then they heard a growl, and then all of a sudden Tom's head started hurting again, like it had back when he had that like serious injury. So that's where it ended, and Brandon basically said, okay, I'm on my way, I got to get out there. So the next day, all the guys are sitting at the table, and they're all walking in from this camping trip thing. And Jim Morse is the one that's Red's soulmate, the one that has the poncho vest and the hunter hat on.
Red soulmate. Oh my gosh, I love it.
He's actually my soulmate, but Red kind of liked him more than me. So anyways, so
I'll let you have him.
Okay, all right.
I'm actually with my soulmate.
Right,
so,
you are.
Okay.
So Jim's like, basically, wow, you guys don't look like you've had any sleep. And Travis is like, we've had no sleep. So if you had like an hour of sleep, you've had more than we have. So he's like looking around the table. He's like, where's Tom? And all the guys are kind of like, oh shit, now who's going to tell him? And back a couple episodes ago, I told you guys that you're going to kind of get like an insight of who Jim Morse really was. So he gets this really worried look on his face. And Travis goes, well, you know, he started telling what happened, that, you know, they were out there, and then all of a sudden Tom started to feel sick. Well, all of a sudden you see Jim sit down, he puts his hands in his face, he starts crying, and he says, how bad is it? I don't know what's going on with Tom and Jim. I don't know if it's like a dad son kind of relationship, or like uncle or what, but Travis is like, we don't know yet. So Jim, for some reason, he says this phenomenon just attaches itself to Tom like a hitchhiker. And this has always been one of my biggest fears, that it would happen to him again, or happen to one of you guys. So, you know, he's kind of a cool dude. I kind of dig him. And then they, you know, they kind of tell him how the night went. And then they said, okay, let's go to bed. Let's go get some sleep, because the whole team has been up all night long. So then we flash to 2 days later, and the guys are outside. They're near the fence, like outside of the command center, and they see Caleb drive up. Caleb is the other big security guard guy, and he's driving like a Jeep kind of vehicle. And they're like, what's Caleb doing? And all of a sudden Tom hops out. Okay, so he's been in the hospital for basically 2 days now, and he hops out. They all run up to him. They're all giving him like hugs and handshakes. They're like, we're so happy that you're back. How you feeling? And they're just like ecstatic to have him back. And they're like, how are you? You know, how are you feeling? And Tom's like, I was worried because it was in the same spot that it was the last time, but you know, I'm okay. So then they flash to an interview with Jim Zagala. Now, Jim Zagala is the scientist guy. And I'm not exactly sure if he's like a doctor as well, or maybe it's because of his science background, but he's basically telling us that during his first injury, Tom's first injury, they called him in as a consultant on his injury. And he basically said from what he saw, it was like the injury on the back of his head was consistent with a beam of radiation that was just entering the back of his head for a long period of time.
I
So
was gonna ask because it's not like he
yeah,
fell or anything, right? It was just like
no, he
swollen.
didn't. Yeah, it just all of a sudden he had a headache, and then it was like this major, like his like skull, like like separated from his scalp, and then it was like all like liquidy under there, and then there was like a big lump. It was like totally crazy. Yeah. So
Gross.
it's like, okay, how the hell
I
does
could
that
never be a
happen?
doctor. I'd be like, gross. There's something on your head.
It's bananas because you're like, well, how the hell did that happen? That it's like a shot of radiation beam going into his head. Bananas. So later that day, Brandon flies in. So, he's coming in on that big black helicopter, like fancy helicopter, lands, and he gets out and he's carrying this silver like briefcase thing. He walks in and they're like, hey, hey, Brandon. He's like, okay. Oh, so he sits down and then he says, okay, so me and Eric have been talking. We've decided that because of all these occurrences that have been going on, we need to decide if it's worth continuing. It's going to be a team decision because there's all this stuff going on, with Tom getting injured, we need to figure out what we want to do. So they all look to Tom because basically, hey, Tom, you're the one that's getting fucked up the most. So Tom's like, it's very humbling with all the love and support that you guys are giving me. But it's not just about us. It's not just about me. I'm sure these occurrences are not just happening within the barbed wire fence of the ranch. I'm sure it's spreading out. And what's out there is my family, my friends, and all the people in the basin that have nothing to do with this. So I think it's up to us to find out what's going on so it doesn't hurt them. So so they're all happy. They're like, okay, cool. I agree. We're going to continue to do this. So Brandon then says that him and Eric had reached out to a company called BioBeat, and BioBeat basically makes these wearable sensor devices. They're kind of like little beeper things that they can pin onto their shirt, and it's basically medical grade monitors that measure your vital signs and your stress measurements.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad I'm not wearing one of those right now because
I know, me
beeping
too.
like level.
Right. And it's like an eye watch. So it's monitored 24/7 on their computer. So they're all going to wear that so that they can just kind of make sure that, if something like that happens again, they kind of have a little bit of forewarning before it's like, big deal. So then all of a sudden, then Brandon's like, okay, peace out. I'm out. Gets on the helicopter and flies home. It's like he's there for 30 minutes. It's so bananas,
Well, I want his life. That sounds
I know, right? Well, he owns it and his brother drives it. So it's just like, come on, take me across to Utah.
Legit.
Yeah, I know, right? So then we go 2 days later, and Eric pulls up with a guy named Derek, and he's from this company called Hot Shots, and he's going to do the thermographic imaging of the entire ranch. So he's a drone specialist, and he pulls out this $35,000 drone that has all this fancy equipment on it. It can go from like night vision to regular vision to thermal vision. Like all he has to do is like press the screen. It's like totally bananas. So, they're kind of saying like, we want you to do this. And Eric basically says, you'll be able to tell if there's something under the surface of the land, right? He's like, yeah, if there's something there, I'll be able to see it. So they take it out and he's flying it, and he's flying it all over the ranch, and they can see some shadows in different spots. It's in the thermographic. So the screen is kind of like pink and orange. And then there's like little dark blue areas. And when he switches it over to the normal camera, it's just the shadows of like the rocks and stuff. So it really isn't any big deal. And he really doesn't find anything at all. He even wants him to like go over the whole field below the basin. There's absolutely nothing weird showing up. So they bring it down. They decide that they're going to go over to where Homestead 2 is. And as they're going over to Homestead 2, they take, the camera focuses on one of these watchtowers. Now there's 3 of these watchtowers that are on the property, and it's a really weird looking thing. It's just kind of like a little watchtower where you would have like a guy sitting with a gun, and then around it is like this long rectangular fence with barbed wire on it. And the Bigelow team is the one that built these. Robert Bigelow is the guy that was there before him, where all his findings are classified by the government, so we don't know what they found. But what they do know, and this is horrible, guys, I'm sorry, they put cows and sometimes dogs in this little area, fenced off area, to actually witness the daytime mutilations that were going on with the cows and stuff that was happening on the ranch. So they kind of used it as like a bait pit
Oh no.
for these weird shit to happen. But we don't know what happened. We don't know what they caught, because all of that is still under lock and key. So
But do they say things that lead you to believe that things happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but we don't know what it is.
We don't know, and who knows if
Oh
we'll
my
ever know.
gosh. Ay.
Right. Okay. So they take Derek and the drone, and they head out to Homestead 2. And, this is where all the banana stuff is happening. So this it's a big little area. It's a little area where there's maybe 4 or 5 little homes built. They're in decay. They're not livable. It's all, they were built in 1905. So you can see, and then they were abandoned in the 30s. So since then, between 1905, whatever, until it was abandoned, it's just gone to ruins.
Right.
And then in 1934, Ken and Edith Meyer, so that was the first family that kind of started experiencing some strange stuff on the ranch. They had bought it, and they lived there until 1994. And then Terry and Gwen Sherman bought it in 1994, and they only stayed there for 2 years. And that's the family that had all like the crazy stuff happen. The stuff with the cattle, all like the UFO sightings, all the paranormal stuff. Their house was trashed all the time. Like they had to put locks on all their doors, even on all their cabinets, because just dishes and food and shit would just fly out all the time randomly.
What?
Yeah, it's totally bananas. I'm surprised they only stayed there 2 years, because if shit was going down like that, I don't think I would have stayed. So then Robert Bigelow's team, they bought it in 1996 from the Shermans, and they actually had it for 10 years. They had it into 2016, or 20 years actually, right? I don't know my math. 1996 to 2016.
What do you do?
An accountant. Yeah.
We're professional.
You could tell I love my job.
Yeah.
So then in 2016, Brandon Fugel then bought the property, and he basically bought it for this purpose, to go and do all these experiments and testing to find out, because locals do believe that this is the most haunted place in the world, and he's down. He's like, okay, let's do it. So this is some of the activity that you can witness to this day still on Homestead 2. You get vertigo, really bad dizziness. You can lose your hearing sometimes. You get nauseated. And then any type of equipment, batteries, like your cell phone batteries or anything else you may have, it like goes from 100 to 0 and like within seconds. You lose like power just like that. So we're hearing like little like narrations of this kinds of stuff while they're showing the guys out there, and Derek's setting up his drone, and he's like, okay, we want you to fly it up and over the mesa, and then up and over the homestead, and see if you can see anything. He cannot get it started. The remote actually will not connect with this drone. This is a $35,000 drone, and it will not connect. And this guy's like sitting there like looking like an idiot, because he's like, this has never happened before. Like, what it like? These guys are probably thinking I'm like bullshitting, right?
Oh my gosh.
So he's like, all right, well, let me step away. So he takes it
like,
out
do you
on
have
the road.
Receipt?
I know, right?
Yeah, I need the receipt.
So he takes it like maybe like 6 or 7 feet out, like away from all like the trees and stuff, and he still can't. So they're like, all right, well, I guess we're done for the day. So they couldn't even get that done because he couldn't get it working. And they're like, something's out there. That's not right. That, hello, like that never happens. So later that day, Travis is doing a little DIY experiment. He has this table set up outside the command center, and he has these huge coffee, like the old-fashioned coffee cans. I thought maybe they were paint cans, but then he said, no, they're coffee cans. So, like how you would take the paper off.
Yeah.
And I guess if he sets his little meter inside, like the metal will tell you like where the direction of the radiation is coming from, because whenever they do that, it's just like shooting at them from all different spots. So it works. He's able to tell like where the radiation is coming from. And what's weird is it's coming straight above. It's coming down at them, where they think it's coming up from below, and it's not. So they're like, okay, let's do this. Let's take this reading. Let's go to 2 other far spots of the ranch. We'll take those readings. So that's what they do. They get in the car, they go, and then they bring it back to the command center. And I just absolutely love this because it's like this little like high school trigonometry science experiment. So he takes pictures of the land onto the table, and then he marks the 3 spots where they took the readings, and then they tie 3 red strings, and they do kind of like a triangle, and where all of those 3 meet is where they say this radiation is coming from. So it ends up being about a mile high, just a mile high up in the sky. And he's like, that is like 1/6 of what jets fly. So we should be able to see whatever's up there by the naked eye, but there is nothing up there. So we need to figure out a way to get up there. So 3 days later, he brings in his buddy, Matthew Turner, who happens to be a research engineer at the University of Alabama, where Travis is from. And he is a weather balloon expert. So they're going to send up this weather balloon with all his equipment attached to it, send it up to the mile-high mark, and get the readings. So they send up the first one. They're blowing it up with the helium, and they're doing all this fun stuff. It's like really cool to see this weather balloon like up close and see, because I always say, oh, it's not a UFO, it's a balloon, weather balloon. No, sorry, this thing, it looks like a beanbag. It's like, that's not a UFO. Sorry, no. Or like one of those like a UFO. Yeah, it looks like one of those like yoga balls that you sit on. That's not a UFO. I'm sorry. So it flies up, and then something happens and it crashes. So weather balloon number 1 failed. So then they decide to put up another one, but this time they're not going to stay connected to it. They're going to break the tether, and they're just going to send it up and just pray that it gets where it needs to go by the time it gets up there. So that's what they do. Perfect launch. The wind's carrying it directly over the mesa. They're so stoked. So they're like, cool. They rush back to command center, because now they can find where it's going and get all the readings and everything back at command center. Well, they get there, and they're all sitting there, they're all excited, and as soon as it hits the 1 mile mark, it disappears, and they have no clue where it ended up.
Oh my God.
It just went dead, like right at that precise.
What the hell? Right. What is there? Yeah. What is it?
I know. So what the fuck is it, right?
We need to know. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, so Travis's next plan is, okay, we're going to send some rockets up there. Okay. So he has to order all his parts and stuff. So while that's happening, Tom, there's a whole nother little side thing that's happening, which I was so excited. This is happening on Homestead 1, which is closer to command center. And that's where the ranch overseers stay. And it's boyfriend, girlfriend, Candace and Tom. They live there. They've been there for about 2 months now. And they just kind of live there, and they oversee the ranch. And they have been reporting weird things happening down in their basement. They're having weird sounds, weird knockings, weird vibrations. Candace even said that she was standing at her stove cooking, and the vibration started, and it was like literally right under her feet from where she was standing. So Tom went there. Yeah. So Tom had gone there and checked it out, and he saw this like weird like wall in the basement. It was kind of like cemented up, and he was able to like poke a hole through it. But however he did that with like a, like how sculptors do or whatever, how he did that. And it's like a room in there. So he's like, what is this room? So he brings Travis over. He's like, okay, hey, look at this. And Travis is like, yeah, like, what the hell is this? So they take a camera and probably like a GoPro, and they attach it to a long 2x2, and Tom is sticking it in there. And what they can see is it's literally just a cement rectangle, which to me, it looks like the vaults that they put, like when they're burying somebody in a cemetery, they have that cement vault. That's kind of what it looks like, but it's bigger. It's like a big, huge cement room. They can tell like the walls are about a foot thick. That's weird. There's no doors, there's no windows, there's no pipes, there's nothing. They're like,
and they didn't know it was there attached to their home.
No, like what the hell is that?
Could you imagine finding a secret vault
like what the fuck, right? And there's nothing
Who's
in
dead
there
in
too.
here? What's happening?
In a little bit, I'm going to tell you something that Travis says, and it's going to give us all goosebumps. I'm serious.
I have goosebumps right now, girl.
I know. I don't want a secret room in my house.
This is messing with my soul.
Right, you guys. So Tom points the camera down to the ground, and they're like, "Wait, what is that?" And they see this little pile of rubble. And it's just like, it looks like ash and charcoal and rocks. And they're like, what the heck is that? And Candace is like, it almost looks like cremations a little bit. Or like, is this an oven? Like what's left over, like when you barbecue? It was really weird. Yeah, they're like, what the heck is this? So it's so funny. So then Travis he's like, point the camera down a little bit more. And then he puts on his glasses and he looks a little bit closer and he goes, what's that white stuff? And he's like,
is it cocaine?
No, he says, that looks like bone. And that's where episode 3 ends, when you're like what? Like bone? Like what?
Some
the
dead
fuck?
bodies in a vault with no door.
Exactly.
Right?
But I'm not going to end it there, y'all. I'm going to carry it on over to episode 4. And this one's called High Strangeness. But I didn't tell you what the title of episode 3 was. It was called Looking Down. So I think that's kind of fun, because obviously they were looking down from the weather balloon and then looking down in this little square cement, whatever they have going on.
Weird.
So episode 4 starts, they're in the basement, they're still trying to find out what's going on. So they decide they're going to get a concrete saw, bananas. So little Tom is holding this friggin' powerful concrete saw, and he's cutting a big hole into the wall so that they could crawl through. And then of course Travis is kind of like holding the little hose, because when you're cutting cement like stone, you have to have the saw wet at all times, or it won't work, right? So
could you imagine these poor people that live in this house and they're having their house cut up to get into this creepy room?
And what are you letting out?
People.
Like what's
right?
Like
yeah,
what is being
hopefully she had sage going on. She's dancing around that hole.
She totally looks like she would.
Good.
Yeah, she totally looks like she would be someone that does that too. So they get a big enough hole where little Tom can get in. So he gets in. He has his little light on his hat, and he has a sledgehammer. He's like pounding from the inside out, big enough so that Travis can get in. So they're both in there. And Travis then kicks Tom out because he says there's not a lot of oxygen in here. You've been in here too long, so get out. So he hands Travis a zippy, and he gets everything from that pile in the zippy, and then they get out. And they bring it back to command center for Eric to look under a microscope and figure out what's going on. So in this command center, it's Travis, Tom, Candace, and her boyfriend, Tom. And Eric has it under the microscope, and it's coming up on a big TV screen. So he's like, if you guys see anything, you guys want me to, stop at a spot, let me know. So they're like, yeah. They're saying, okay, so that looks like ash, that looks like this. And then they're like, that's either a tooth or a rib. There's hair there. There's a black piece that he like zones into, and this is so weird, you guys, it looks like hide or like skin, because you can see like the crepiness of it, but it's deep black. Like it was either mummified or if it was burnt, but you can tell there's a texture to it.
Oh no.
Wow.
So they're like, what are these bone fragments? What is this? So they don't think that it's human. They think it's animal because
Okay.
it's very,
I was
very
gonna say,
tiny.
yeah.
But burned.
But there's also like little like crystallized blood also in the findings. So they're like, what is this? Like, how and why would there be a burnt up animal in this box,
Right.
burned, and there's like no like smoke, it's like, what the fuck is going on? So they're like, yeah, it's too small to be human. It has to be animal, but still this doesn't answer what's going on with Tom and Candace with all the banging and the vibrations and everything that else is going on. So they're like, what the fuck? So Travis then says, what is this? Like, why did they build this? They either built it to keep something in or to keep someone out or to keep something in. Oh my God. Yeah.
What was it?
I
What
don't
was it?
know. I
Was it the
know.
chest
I got
one?
chills
Chupacabra?
everywhere.
What was it? Oh,
God.
was it Nessie? Damn.
So at this
Oh my
point, they
God.
don't know. They don't know where to take it from there.
Oh,
So
I
it's
got
just
the
like,
chills
okay.
all up and down everywhere.
So
Damn.
I'm hoping that they revisit this later on in the episodes, but basically at this point, that's it. That's where it leaves off
But
on that.
I need to know what the answer is. So
I know. I'm hoping we'll find out. I promise. And if
cliffhanger.
not, I'm gonna call Travis and I'll find out what's going on.
Okay, thank you. That's
Okay.
all I ask.
So 1 week later, you see these two big trucks driving down the dirt roads into the ranch, and they're kicking up dust. And it's an interview with Tom, and Tom says they're bringing in some cattle to put on the ranch. So they're bringing
bait?
about as well, not as
Oh no.
bait, not as bait,
Okay.
as an experiment. Okay, they're not.
Oh
They're
my.
not.
Okay. Oh
Yeah,
my
they're not
God.
going to hurt the cows.
Oh,
So they have
these
about
cows.
40
Okay.
heifers.
Oh wow. Wow.
And then they go to an interview with Brandon, and Brandon goes, it's a known fact that there have been numerous cattle mutilations, daylight mutilations going back to the 1930s. So then they show Tom, he walks up to one of the trucks, the cattle dude, his name's Kelly Crozer. He's the rancher that's bringing the cows onto the property. They're kind of estimating like, hey, back the truck this way, let them out. So they let them into the pens because the pens are there. The pens are perfect from back when the Shermans had them. So they basically just put all the 40 heifers out there, and they're just kind of like happy to be grazing out there that hasn't been grazed in years and whatever. Then they go to an interview with Tom, and Tom goes, each cow is a biosensor that can be used for scientific purposes. I almost have a sixth sense with them and can sense their behavior. So Tom is like one with the cows, I guess. And then
I feel
Tom
like
and
I'm also one with cows. You and me. I get you, girl. I get you, cow. Mm-hmm.
and then he says that Tom and Candace are going to they're going to keep an eye out on the cows because they live there on the property. So they're not going to let anything bad happen to the cows. So anybody was worried about them, nothing's bad going to happen to the cows. Then they go back to an interview with Brandon, and he said, I grew up with Candace and Tom since we were little kids. He said, Candace is an accomplished and published anthropologist, and Tom Tom is a recognized technologist for a number of large companies across the world. So these two people are like big time, and they're just kind of kicking it on Skinwalker Ranch, like doing whatever.
Mr. and Mrs. Smarty Pants. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're planning on doing. They're going to sit there now, and they're going to monitor the cattle. Oh, so it goes back to an interview with Tom, and he says, before I came to the ranch, I had done some research and heard some very strange stories. Back when the Shermans lived here, they were out where the cattle was corralled, and they walked away for a few minutes. And when they came back, they noticed that all their cows were gone and they could not find
Mm.
them at all. Like within minutes, they were gone. So they just like did this huge like exploration of the property, trying to find where the hell the cows were. And where they found them was all stuffed into this itty bitty little trailer. Well, I'm sure it was a big enough trailer where there could fit a number of cows. And they were all standing perfectly still and unresponsive. They were catatonic.
They were zoned
How-
out.
Wow.
Like
How the
completely
fuck
out
does
of it.
that happen?
Wow.
How the fuck does that happen?
Oh, so something
Yeah.
scared them.
Oh,
Something
no. That
Like,
doesn't
scared
just
these poor
happen.
cows. Oh my gosh.
But are they smart enough to know, let's go hide in this
Sure.
trailer?
If
Really?
an animal is scared, but I guess that's what's weird, right? That they all
Right.
went.
Yeah.
They're all in this
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
So
and-
they were all scared of something.
Right. So Travis, and then there's an interview with Travis, and he says, I'm very excited to see how these cattle react to being on the ranch, but more how the ranch is going to react to the cattle here. And that's where I'm going to end it.
Ooh.
Woo! Yes.
That was a fun ending. That was
It
like
was.
Y'all,
the
Yeah.
because-
opposite of my story ending.
I
I love when I end a story and I was like,
Yeah.
Mhm. Good job. Good
Yeah,
job.
That was
Shima.
great. Oh,
and it's just going to get
It
better,
shows.
y'all. It's just going to get better.
It's
Oh my
really
gosh.
interesting.
Yeah, it's so great. I hope it's not
Mhm.
boring, because this one was just kind of like, but it's gonna get,
No,
it's
I
gonna
think
start
it's so
getting
fun.
good. Oh
I
yeah,
got goosebumps.
I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's just these little things that are adding up that they're proving that some of this shit actually does happen on this ranch.
It's
And it's
really
just
interesting.
bananas.
I love
Yeah.
it.
can you imagine if they like had decided to get into like a hot air balloon and go a mile up and then they all disappeared?
Yes.
Oh my
What?
god,
Can
Don't
you
do it.
imagine?
I don't know if it can go a mile high. Can it go a mile high?
I don't know.
I don't
don't know.
know. There's that movie that was out a while ago with I forget the guy's name, but they're in a hot air balloon and they're like, they get too high and it like they freeze,
It
like
gets really
they turn to
cold.
ice and stuff.
Yeah.
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 Okay, we'll have
I
to
remember
look
that
into
movie.
how
That was a
high
good one.
can they go.
I don't know. Maybe they do that. I haven't snuck ahead and watched the rest of the episode, so I don't know.
Yeah. feel like-
Interesting.
I mean, a mile is high, but I feel like a mile's not that high for a hot air
Right.
balloon.
We'll
Yeah,
look into
probably.
it
Okay.
Yeah.
because we need to know.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
To know.
I need to know. I need to know. So
Yeah.
I can tell them not to do it.
Right.
So I'll never do it. All right,
Right.
y'all. It's that time for
Badass
badass
story of the week.
Ooh, Dre,
Oh,
we
man.
need a badass. We need
Yes.
a badass. We need something
I
good.
have a cute badass,
good.
guys. So I
Give it
don't
to
have my
us.
laptop. So this is all from memory. But I have a cute election badass, and I'm super
Give
in
it.
love with him. You guys know who Paul Rudd is?
Mm,
That's my husband,
He's
remember?
Hi.
we're all
Oh,
married
I
to
love
him. Have
him.
you seen that video of him just dancing at
Oh.
different
I
times?
love him.
Ah,
No, I haven't.
just the best.
I'm gonna say it again, y'all. Wanderlust. Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
I'm so in love.
Yeah.
He is
I'll
the
send you
best.
that video.
You're gonna love him. You're gonna
I
love him
love it.
even more
Oh,
after
God.
this.
All
Okay.
right.
So
It's not
in-
possible.
yeah, I know. So in New York, everyone's standing in line outside, waiting in long lines to go vote. It's raining.
Yes.
But- All these badass people are out there. They don't live in California, so they have to withstand this crazy weather. Well, we're like in, what is this? Like beautiful 80 degrees or some shit? Like
I'm sick
wonderful
of it.
weather.
I'm
Uh-huh.
I
sick of
feel
it.
in November.
It sucks, you guys.
It's
We need
so
sweater weather.
November.
Where's the sweater weather? We need it.
Mhm.
So all these people are waiting in line. There's umbrellas, and they're like, it's wet and all, and they're waiting. And here comes Paul Rudd with cookies.
Oh, Paul,
Freaking cook.
damn it, Paul,
And
damn it.
and like onlookers thought, oh, he's just coming to get in line to vote at the Barclays Center, and no big deal. It's Paul Rudd. No, Ant-Man, whatever. I think I was so crazy. But
Damn
he
it.
walks up to this lady and is like, I just want to say thanks for voting today. And he hands her a cookie. And then he's like
Aw.
handing people cookies
I
up
love
and
him.
down Barclays Center. And it was just so cute. And so apparently he was there all day.
Love him.
So it wasn't
Oh
just
my
like a
gosh.
one-off kind of thing. He
Yeah.
had like his people bringing him cookies all freaking day long, handing them out to people that were in line voting. And then as people were coming out voting, he was handing them cookies and saying, thanks for voting. Like, you don't have to do that. You're such a sweetheart.
I love him. I wish he was at my polling place.
Me
I know. So yeah, so it goes viral. And people are, this time we got to vote wherever the hell we wanted to, right? So they're like tweeting like, oh my God, Paul Rudd is at the Barclays Center. Come now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Voted.
Yeah.
Yay,
I love that.
Paul.
Yay, Paul Rudd. I love you
Yes.
even more now.
I didn't think it was possible.
But it was.
Got
it.
I love
Yep.
it. I dig it. All right, everyone, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. We have an amazing website, handcuffsandsagepodcast.com. You guys can email us your deepest thoughts and secrets, and we'll definitely talk about them. That is handcuffsandsage@gmail.com. We have our Patreon page. So if you want to support your favorite gals, go ahead and hit us up on our Patreon page. And I always feel like I'm forgetting something. No,
you're right on
I did
it.
it. I did
Got
it.
it.
Professional.
Proud of you.
Professional. It's the pearls. It's helping.
Yes.
It
Yay!
is. It is.
RBG, all the love in the world. This was fun. I needed this. I think we needed this. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, happy election night. Who knows what's going to happen, but we'll all be friends to the end. Yes?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Like Chucky.
It was
Like
getting
Chucky.
kind of bananas before I logged on to, our Zoom party here. So, dude, it's
Oh
gonna
my
be
gosh,
bananas.
you guys.
And this
Kanye's
is
going to be
good.
an amazing president. Oh,
This is what we need, you guys, though. You know what? This proves that people actually went out and actually voted because it's
It's
so bananas. It's like so close and everywhere. So that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like
big
we're
numbers.
doing it. We're doing it as a country.
We're
Come on,
doing
people.
it.
Yeah.
we're
All
doing
right,
it.
America, doing it. All right.
Okay.
Here we go. And remember, we
do what we want. Yeah,
All day,
yeah.
every day.
Yep.
All right. Bye-bye.
I love you.
Bye. See you later. Bye. Handcuffs and Sage is hosted by Red, Timo, and Dre in a shitty guest room in Los Angeles.
Theme music is Leave Now by We Are Wasted. Cover art done by Megan Winchester.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Show us some love on iTunes. Be a badass and do what you want. Until next time.